This is fun. I've been having fun this past week. Years ago, I used to do a lot of this stuff, but I kind of lost, I mean, there's so many things, so many art supplies, so little time. So, but I'm really glad to be sharing this with you. There's two different kinds of marbling that I'm going to show you today. One is more the traditional, and one is, well, they're both traditional. One is Suminigashi, which is a Japanese style, which is really a lot easier than I remember. It's a lot easier than I remember now. And the other is a Turkish marbling, kind of your typical Turkish style. And the first thing I'm going to start with, well, I'll kind of go over the basic supplies. For this, I guess I'll go over all of it now, and then I'll do the demo. So for the Suminagashi, it could be just as simple as you need a tray of water, which I'm going to, like a tray, shallow tray. I have a cat litter tray that I use. I've got these little things I've had for years. You could use just anything shallow, like I even am using a Pyrex baking dish for the other marbling. So just some kind of tray that you can even, there's all kinds of things, even those little metal disposable kind of trays that you can get at the store. And the real simple thing is if you have some sumi ink or any kind of black ink, that's the traditional Suminagashi, which really translated in Japanese is ink spilled. So, and it kind of gives that impression. But this is a really fun way to marble or to decorate your paper. You also, for this, the best results are unsized papers. If you have rice paper or even typing paper, just something out of your printer. They're also this set here that I got off of Dick Blick, like I said, was only about $10 or so. And this is the inks. They come with these inks, and these go a long way. You use so little. So for $10, you've got a lot of projects to do. So that just wanted to tell you about that. We're going to be using this first. You also need some kind of tray to mix your paints, your inks in. You need, I've got here just some brushes. I won't be painting, but I'll show you what I'm going to do with those brushes. Toothpicks. These are actually just skewers that I cut down, or you can use toothpicks, or just, this is the skewer that I cut down, the bamboo skewer. And rice papers. And oh yeah, here we are. I'm just going to show you the rice paper that I used. This is one I use all the time because it's fairly thick. It's got a decent weight to it, and it's not sized. So any unsized paper, but you can also use the just typing paper. It's fine. Or I even made some with, well, I don't have it here, but I even used newsprint, and I was able to make some marbles with nice marbling prints that way. So that's for the Suminagashi. But for the traditional, more Turkish style, which is this right here, this is more the Turkish style, which is a lot, it's pretty brilliant colors. You can mix your paints. We'll do that too. That one, to get your papers, to have so the paint will stick, it's recommended to use alum to size your paper. Now, if you don't have alum, that's okay. The paints just may not, or the prints won't come out as bright, but they'll still be nice. It's just a different look. You'll get a different type of look. But alum is something you can buy. I've had this alum for probably 20 years. You can get it off of it's something that's used for pickling pickles. So it's something that's available at kitchen places or sometimes a grocery store. If not, you can get it through the Amazon, Dick Blick, all that. Like I found in this methylcellulose, which is a kitchen item. It's stuff to thicken sauces and all that. You can use cornstarch, wheat, all kinds of things. The thing I like about this, you do not have to cook it. It's, so there's one less step to do. But you'll need, basically the principle of the marbling is that your water needs to be able to support the ink, it needs to float. So however you do it, so if you're using a heavier color, you'll want to thicken your water. But like I said, we're going to start with I'll explain too, that the alum, when you put it on, you just mix it with water and you wipe it onto the paper and let it dry and use it within 2 days. That's just kind of helps the paint stick, but it still doesn't mean you can't do it. So And you need paper towels are handy. And I'll bring in as I can because the camera is only I only have a certain amount of room. So for the Suminigashi, I'm going to do this first. And this, like I said, it's just a traditional Japanese style of printmaking, basically, because this is a print. We're making only one out of each time you do this, you'll just do one print. And these are the inks, and I'm not sure if these are dye-based or if they're pigmented, actually. I don't really know. And I've got a little variety of rice papers. These have not been treated with anything. They're just papers that I happen to have. I'm going to bring those close by. I also, for the other demo part, I did treat some rice paper with the alum, and I also treated some other papers, some watercolor paper, just to show you the different things we can do with it. And I'm going to move that out of the way because it's going to get messy. I need to have room. Another thing is I would suggest is when you're doing this, you can reuse your paper towels, by the way. You don't want to waste them because it won't get your paper towels messy. Have your paper towels kind of to the side and ready to blot your finished pieces on. And then just have your brushes ready. I'm going to move this out of the way so I got everything here so you can see everything. All right, now we're ready to rock and roll. Oh, another thing I like to do, I live in a place where my water is extremely hard. It's just terrible. So what I do is I use distilled water, but you don't have to. It's not necessary. I'm just trying to be a purist. No, plus it helps it float better. The inks will float better if you're using paper. If you're using water that doesn't have a lot of mineral content in it. So it depends on where you live. If you have soft water, not a problem. But if you have hard water like me, I mean, my water is so hard, it's scary. Then it's good to just use some distilled or even some kind of bottled water. And it didn't take a lot of water, just so you know. This tray didn't hold much. It actually, I'd say maybe it was maybe a cup, 2 cups or so of water in this tray. So if you can get, depending on the size of paper you want your tray, you want your paper to fit. Maybe this paper's cut a little small, but it's not too bad. This is a 6 by 12 sheet, which is basically the rice paper I just cut in half. And so now I've got a nice, it's like a nice place to do my thing on. Okay, so this is the fun part. So I'm going to show you the first technique. It's really super easy. I'm going to take, let's do, I don't know if you need to shake these. I don't know enough about these. Actually, I'm going to do the first technique without the colors. I just want to show you the traditional. Of course, I've not tried it with the Sumi ink yet, so maybe I'm being a bad girl. Maybe I should not, but I'm going to just go ahead and put some Sumi ink. Heck, I might as well try it. Of course, I can't open it, so I guess I won't try it. So I'm going to take the ink from this marbling kit, or the colors, and I'm not going to use much. I just need a couple of drops, just a few drops right here like this. So this is going to last me a long time. I can marble to my heart's content for a long time. And I'm going to put a little blue. So that's the black. And we've got some blue. Let's just put all the colors out. Why not? Let's see what happens. Got some green. And really, see how little? And this is really a nice, clean way to do stuff because I'm not even worried about not wearing gloves. I mean, if I got this on my clothing, I guess it would be a problem, but it's really not. It's really, this stuff's pretty clean. And I don't think these are acrylics. I do believe that they're dyes or maybe pigmented kind of dyes, but they're definitely not acrylics. So they're not going to dry on your, they're going to, you can wipe them and clean them easily. So I'm just going to do a little red because I want to try all these colors. I haven't tried them yet. I've got all these colors here. Let's see what happens. So the first technique that's really fun and very satisfying to do is if you can use a brush, which is probably preferred. I'm just going to use a soft, these are little tiny brushes. You can use any cheap brush, doesn't matter. Makeup brushes, whatever you have. And I'm going to just start with 2 colors just to start. And I'm going to do a black and blue. So I'll take my black and I'm going to I've got these colors. I'm going to fill them. Try to get as much color as I can on the tips of my brushes. And I'm going to take I'll drop the black. I mean, I'm not what I'm doing is I'm going to just tap gently, tap. You can see how it's spread out. I don't know if you saw that. And I'm going to tap again with the blue. Just tap, and I'm just going to alternate every other one. So you can see, and it will build up. And in the Japanese masters do this hundreds of times. I'm going to do it just a few times so you can see what's happening. You can see this beautiful circular thing going. Now, if I need to be careful because it is, there we go, that's the blue or the black. I need to be careful not to talk too loud or blow on it because it will, just a little bit of circulation of air is going to move the color around. And I don't really want that right now. So I'm just going to keep doing it until all the paint is gone. So just alternating. And if I want to, I could throw in a different color, just depending on how many. It's quite a bit of, that's quite a bit there. So you can see it's starting to drift over here. And I don't know why. Maybe my house is not level. I don't know. It's starting to, there we go. So that's just one. You can see how very little paint I use to get all of that. There we go. Just keep doing it. Just alternate. It's like a little dance. Okay, one more time. There we go. Now I'm going to just set these guys down, and I'm going to pull a print just so you can see. I'm just going to do it like that. Now, one thing that when you're doing this, if you're using rice paper, use the smooth side is your side that you're going to do it. And when you do it, just do it all, like lay it down quickly and all, there we go. It did leave a weird thing because I didn't lay it completely flat. So now I've got this weird little seam, and that's going to stay on there. That's just the way it worked out. So now I'm going to pull it, and you can see how it picked up everything and beautifully. And I'm just going to put it over here to my paper towel, and I'm going to take a paper towel, blot it. Another one, and just blot it. And it shouldn't transfer, any of this paint should not be transferred onto, there you go. No, it didn't transfer it all onto the paper towel. There it is. It looks really cool, except for, I wished it didn't have that little thing in the middle, but it's okay. It's just the way it is. I'll try another one and see if we can get that better. That's one print. I just did one, and I'm going to set it aside. I've got a little place in my space here that I have a little, some paper down on my floor, so I can just set it aside. Now there's a little bit of black floating around on here. If I don't want that black, I just want it to be, I want to start over. I mean, you could take a second print if you want to be very faint, or you can take some newsprint. So you can grab a little. I just cut some slices of newsprint, and I'm just going to drag it. That's probably too. There you go. I'll tear it a little bit. I'm just going to drag it across my paint water or the water, and it totally cleans. It will clean off the surface, or at least hopefully, or it moves it out of the way. Okay, so you can see I picked up some of the color on that, and just throw that part away. And now I'm going to do some more. So this one is going to be a little different. This is something that they showed. These are little float papers, they call them. This came with the kit, and I've never used these, so it's going to be interesting. You just put them in the water, and these can be reused apparently, so that's cool. You don't want to throw away a bunch of stuff. I'm going to just do 3 times. I've got 3 dots floating. And I'm going to kind of submerge it a little bit so that they kind of float. So I just want them, but I want them to be, they're just floating. There we go. So now they're right on there. Okay. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take the colors, and this time I'm going to use not a Q-tip. I'm going to use one of my, I could use a Q-tip. I'm going to just and take some color, all these colors. I'm just going to try. I'm going to put some red. So I'm going to put that on. And what that's doing, it's floating. I think this would be fun to try with, that one's not really submerged. Oh, there you go. It'd be fun. Maybe I should use a brush. It's not working as well as I'd like. Okay, so I'm going to just take it with a brush and just do it. It would probably work just fine. There we go. So just pushing it in there, kind of just so that it basically makes it so that the paint or the ink does not float or it doesn't sink. You really would you want it to I'm just going to drop it on there, and everything's moving around, and I don't see a lot because of the colors are so, I don't know if you see that, but let's see, I'm going to try using a little yellow, just dropping it on. You can actually drop it, I shouldn't be so shy. I'm just going to do it with the, just taking the ink straight out of the bottle. Heck with that. I'm just going to do it this way. So here we go. I'm going to drop this right on, and that should, whoa, there we go. Now, there we go. That's going to be cool. And then I'll drop a little bit of red, which this is kind of a beautiful red. It's almost like a magenta when it's thinned out. I'll just put some on that and drop it right on. There we go. That's what we're talking about. I wanted to see that. Now it's there. And I'll put some, I'll just keep doing it on the same dot and see what happens. There, oh yeah. That's pretty. Just got a little bit on me. All right, some yellow. Or how about, let's try some blue. And if you notice that the colors don't mix together, they don't blend. You'd think they would mix up with each other on the inside once you drop it in, you'd think they would blend, but they don't. They just kind of, drop that on. They just push each other out of the way. Look how pretty that is. I'm just going to put some over here. I didn't do that. See if it pushes out the blue. Look at, ooh, so see how much fun this is. And you can take your time and decide what you want to do. I mean, this is the time. You just take your time. All right, so now I've got a fair amount of color on there. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to move this out of, I'm just going to do some swirling around. Just kind of swirl it. You can actually, if you don't even want to swirl it, you can actually blow on it. Of course, I'm afraid to do that right now. But you can blow on it if you want to create the turbulence with a straw, maybe. I'm gently blowing on it. Very gently. And now I'm going to try to pull a print, see what happens. Here we go. And this time I'm going to put it down without hesitating. Ta-da! There it is. I just dropped it in there. Okay, and now I'm going to pick it up with my fingers. And there it is. It's a very bright color. It's very brilliant. I'm going to lay it on my paper towel. And I'm going to dab with a clean towel, dab it off and see how it works. Now you can see there's a lot of contamination and there's a lot of ink that sunk, but that's okay. That's quite normal for that to happen. Here's my print, which I think is really cool. So just, so that you can just play with this. Like here, I'll have to clean it up now, but if you want to clean up stuff like this, like those little dots, since they are reusable, now I'm getting stuff all over my fingers, which I didn't intend. But another thing is if you put your fingers in there, you can actually create, your oils on your fingers will push the paint out of the way and it will create more white spots. So I'll show you what I mean. So I'm going to get this out of the way. Yes, get those out of the way. I shouldn't even be putting my fingers in this because what's happening is I am pushing the paint out of the way with the oil of my fingers, or the colors. So I'm just going to go ahead and pull another one so you can see what happens on the second thing. Plus it also, in doing it like I just dropped it in, that works a lot better than trying to roll it in. In the other marbling, you could roll it in a little bit too, but you'll see when I do that next. So now I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to move this one out of the way. That one came out pretty. And I'll stick this one on my towel. You can see it's a lot more subtle, but it's still very beautiful. That could be used as a background for all kinds of things. I'm just going to blot off the excess water, and I'll show you what it looks like. So this one will just be very subtle. And this ink or these colors are in that paper. They're not going anywhere. And when this paper dries, it'll be much brighter. The white will be brighter, and this is sort of translucent right now, but it will be really nice when it dries. So I'm going to set that aside. Okay, so that's the Suminagashi. That is a really fun thing to do. Now I'm going to set this aside without spilling it. I hope I can do that. Just going to put my paper towels. I'm going to get some stuff and try to get some room here. What I have is a tray, and you're not seeing it, but okay, I'll show you. It's a tray. This is a cat litter tray. I use this all the time for cleaning my stencils and for all kinds of stuff. And I'm putting that down on the floor so I can have access to it. And I'm going to move this out of the way. And I'm going to bring over the paper the bath. I call it a bath. I'm just going to do that so I don't spill it on my floor. And now I've got this Pyrex dish that earlier today, there we go. This is just your baking dish. Heck with casseroles. We're going to make art. So I've thickened it, sort of, not as thick as I normally like it to be, but I didn't want to spend, it was time constraint wise. I just didn't want to, I didn't have time to, so we'll see how it works. All right, so now I'm going to put my Suminagashi stuff away, and I'm going to show you about the marbling that's done more traditional, like the Turkish marbling. And I'm going to show you on the sized paper and the unsized, so you can kind of see how it will be. So in this case, I'm using acrylic inks, basically high flow acrylics. This Golden is the brand, quinacridone, all these different colors. I like these three. See, phthalo blue, quinacridone, magenta, and Hansa yellow. Those are my three go-to colors because I can make any color out of them. I use also titanium white, and I'm going to mix some colors up because I don't want just those pure colors. I think it'd be fun to dilute them and make them more, just change them up a little. So I'm just going to put some color. I've got white, little titanium white, or I can just drop them straight in like this. Why not? Let's just do it. It'd be fun. They don't mix together. That's what's weird about marbling. When you put the colors in, I'm not going to make the new colors. It's sort of weird how that works. So I've got some white here. I've got these papers that are sized with alum. Now the thing about this is when you have a thicker water, it will tend to be sort of gelatinous. Your paper will be gelatinous. Since I don't have access to a sink right now, I can't just run to the sink because I'm wired to a microphone. But normally when I do this, I put it in the bath, pull the print, and I go to the sink, and I'm going to rinse off the jelly, this stuff, the bath. Just so that's one thing I won't do here because I don't have a sink right here. But that's one step that I always do. So I'm going to just for fun, I'm going to do a little, maybe mix this blue up, put some blue inside here. Let's see. Better open that. Oops, got to be careful when I open these because when you open these, sometimes, they tend to, depends on the pressure of the house, or whatever. It can cause little explosions, little mini explosions. So I'm just going to thin this so that I've got like a really pretty blue that's a little bit not so intense. So there, I've got that. That's pretty. All right. Now, if I want, I can float it on just like I did I could spatter it on. Actually, better to not touch the water because I'm just going to spatter it on with my brush like this. Spatter, spatter, spatter. And then I'm going to take another color and I'm going to spatter that too. Let's just spatter some magenta. I'm just going to, this time I'm going to drip it right straight in. Just drip, drip, drip. And you can see the colors push each other away. I have some that dropped, and that's okay as long as it's down there. That's okay. I'm going to do a little bit of this blue again, I'm going to just drop it in here, maybe right in the center. And you can see, because it's a fairly thin acrylic. Oh, that's pretty. I'm getting kind of a nice. I'm getting there. Yeah, it's not too bad. It's sinking somewhat, but not horribly. So here I'm just spattering. This is the traditional. This is actually it's there. Yeah, ooh, that's going to be pretty. Just by touching the surface. There we go. And then, should I do some black? Yeah, I think that would be a good idea. So I'm just going to do a little black. This time I'm going to spatter the black because I don't want to, if I use this dropper, it'd be just too much. So I'm just going to take some of this black and I'm going to spatter it and see how it works. Just little spatters, like just controlled spatters. And this is floating beautifully on there. And it's just undiluted acrylic paints. And you can just keep going and going with the spatters. All right, that looks pretty cool. And I'm going to do it again, some more spattering on this. That's a much more, there's a lot of white in that, so it's not showing up as much. So I'll spatter with this blue here. Remember the blue, I just used it straight out, but this time I'm going to, there we go. I'm going to do it right here to see how that, so it's a little bit, yeah, just going to get into that pink and kind of get rid of that pink a little bit. Okay. So you can keep going and going and going like, but anyway, you can, just so you know, the layers, you can just keep adding and adding. So now I'm going to, I should have put this in a bath of water, which I will. There we go. Those go in the water. So there I am there. So I'm not stopping now. I'm going to start doing, you can do all kinds of things. You can run a comb through this. You can do all kinds of things, but I'm going to just go in with my toothpick and I'm going to make some swirls, kind of controlled. And this is the part where you take your time and just kind of play, and a little bit of movement does a lot. So you don't need, you can just play. You can do a very specific pattern, like if you were to take your toothpick and just run it through in one way and then come this way. Of course, a comb works too, but you can just create this, just let that surface, and these are really beautiful. This is a traditional way when you do it this way, by the way. You could just see a pattern happening. And if you go, don't go too fast, because then it just break your pattern that you make will sort of disappear. But you could just kind of go slow. And this isn't very thick. This water is probably, it's not as thick as I normally make it. It's probably like the consistency of not even whipping cream. I'd say just regular milk, or not, let's see, half and half maybe. So it's got some viscosity to it, but it's not like over the top thick. Okay, so now you can see what's happened. Okay, I've got this beautiful, I kind of like what's right in here. So I'm going to pull my print, and I'm going to use the sized one first. And this one I'm going to do it with, this watercolor paper. We'll see what happens. I'm just going to plop it in there. Hopefully it won't, there we go. Hopefully it got everything. And this is the fun part, but just once you do it, there it is. Now it sort of looks blurry, but it's going to be fine. But I do need to get this, there's a glob of cellulose right there. What I need to do is stick that in a bath of water, which I'll do really quickly. I do have a bath of water just to get off that, what is it called? The goop off. Now I'm going to pick it up. I'm going to show it to you now that I've got it off the water. So you can see it didn't, I put it in the bath. I rinsed off the goop, the thicker water, and now I'll just let that dry. So that's another way. Now definitely with this stuff, I could pull another one, and I'm going to show you with the rice paper. I'm just going to plop it down, and I've got this really pretty, okay, just going to let that soak up. And even that makes the print. What's happening there, it makes a print. So this is the rice paper. So I was able to pull another print, and I'm going to soak it in. I'm just going to get the cellulose water off and put it in the bath. And then I could probably dab it with a paper towel. And I have to say, this is a very messy, this is something where you need lots of room. Give yourself lots of room. I'm going to put this on just here, I'm going to put this on top of here so you can see. So I'm just going to lay that on top, this paper right on top. And I'm going to just take my towel and dab off some of that water and that goop. And it should not transfer off. It should just stay right on. So there's that. And I'll let that dry. I can use this. These little masonite things are really handy because they're really good for drawing. It's just these are called ampersand art boards, and they're so nice because you can use them. But just masonite works. But you can leave it on here to dry just like that. But I'm going to use it again, so I'm just going to lay that down, let it dry. Okay, so I've got that. Now, when you're in between colors, so you can use this bath as long as you want. You would just take, if you want to get it cleaned off, just kind of, as much as you can, just clean the surface off. And you can actually, this is just newsprint, so I'm just showing you. You can also create patterns if you want to on strips of paper, if you don't want to waste the paints. So now I've got like a kind of a semi-clean surface, but if I really want to get it cleaner, I can just drag it across until it's pretty clean. Now, whatever's underneath is not going to touch the paint. It's not going to hurt. Okay, so let's try something else. I've not tried, I don't think it's necessary to do it with these, but if you have acrylics, like regular acrylics, I'm just going to, for fun, I've got this red paint, and I'm just going to plop it on. I've never done this, but I know that what I showed you does work. This, I don't know, but I did see somebody on YouTube do it. She just took some paint and she just blobbed it. And I see that some of it's floating, but most of it's sinking. So maybe I wouldn't do this in the future. It's probably too thick. Very little, most of it sank, so I'm not going to do that. It's better to have thinner colors. These definitely work great. Here we go. I'm just going to put a little bit of this white, just because white is really, I know that it's white paper is on top, or if you're using a colored paper, the white would look gorgeous. So I'm going to do a little bit of this. I've got paint all over me now. That's what happens when you're playing with colors. I'm just going to do the same thing. Drop some color. Ooh, that's pretty. Just let it happen. That's enough yellow. Wow, that's pretty. And then I'll throw a little black. Let's see, get dramatic. But definitely inks will work because it's lighter, it's thinner viscosity than the water. And that's what you need. You need that. So we'll just doing those three. And now, why not some blue? Let's see, throw the blue on too. This stuff's going to be gnarly. The blue tends to spread everything out, but it is so brilliant though. Okay, so now I've got those three black things, those three dots. I'm going to try to move those colors around. And this is where you take your time. You just take your time. I'm going to move this here. You can make even hearts if you want, or flowers, if you're really careful. You can just push your toothpick in and you can create little cool shapes. Now let's see what happens when we do this black. It just sort of needs to be moved around. And it can be. You just do it and there you go. It's moving around. But if I want to be more traditional, move it around a little bit more just to get more swirls. You can do that. And I can bring the pink in. And it's really up to you how you do this. But the more you move it, the more you agitate it, and I can see as it's just swirling around, the more interesting the patterns become. And it's kind of now it's just doing its own thing. I'm not even doing anything, and it's doing it. So, but I want to bring this white in because it kind of was the first thing I put down. And this would look really great on a paper that has a little tone to it, which I do have some. So if you had a gray or off-white paper, and you'll see these colors really pop. And this yellow sort of overpowers this whole thing. So I'm hoping we'll see how it works. I'm just going to bring those in, and now I'm going to pull the print. Of course, it's got to let it stop moving, I guess. This is the yellow. If I can grab that yellow paper. Let's see what happens. This is the yellow. This is actually a paper. It's a rice paper, but it's kind of a yellow tint or it's a beautiful paper. I'm just going to drop it right on quickly. And if, this is all can be used too. If you wanted to, like I have this heart that I did, I don't know, I folded it and I didn't really like the print. So if I want to, I can just do, I can get it, I can actually put it right here and I'm just going to float it on top. Of course, it's unfolding now, but at least you can see that you can marble other things. You could marble fabric. There's so many things you can do with this stuff. So now I'm going to pick it up and see how it came out. Oh, nice. So this little part, the jelly part, because I didn't mix my methylcellulose very well, this little part right in here looks a little weird because that was a goop of methylcellulose. But otherwise, it looks pretty good. I'll stick it in the bath. I'll just throw it in the bath for a second, let it move around. And now I see a really beautiful opportunity just to see what happens here, because that looked really nice. And I'm just dropping it on, and this is actually going to be my favorite print. I love that. It looks very galaxy-like. Just let that, I got to find a place for that. So, where do I put it? There's a spot. Okay, so I'm just wiping off, I'm just putting the rice paper in the bath, or the rice paper, and if you're not careful, you can tear the paper, which I did. See, I picked it up and I tore it. But, as long as you're gentle with it, it will be okay. But this one, I did tear it a little, so that's that. I tore it. But the best thing is really if you just put it onto this kind of thing, and then you can rinse it off rinse it off in the sink, and just gently let the water rush over it, and it cleans off the starch.